instantaneous.
It's already live. So like legitimately the second I press go, it's on it. This new thing is
terrifying. I'm gonna have to really watch what I say in those last 5 seconds.
Yeah, right. Make sure you got your shirt tucked in when I say go. Well, to anybody who's on yet, it looks like we're just obviously kicking things off, so people are still jumping into the room. But for everybody who's joining in with us, my name's Charlie. I've got Dalen with me as normal, and today we're joined by one of the co-founders of MAP, Kyle. Kyle, thanks for making the time to jump on the live with us today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, how's it going, guys?
I mean, it's been pretty good for me. I mean, you've seen me around the shop a few times, but for the most part, working from home still. So as far as like that update goes, Dalen and I are there. It looks like you're at the shop now. How's everything
going?
Every day. Yeah. How's everything going at the shop?
It's busy.
Yeah.
As busy as it can be, I guess. But we're moving through stuff. So all you customers taken care of.
Yeah, no, and that's cool because it's obviously no secret now. I think we've talked about it on this live almost every week since everything got really hectic, but we're really busy. A lot of it is stuff that obviously you kind of oversee as well. So I'm sure you're even more just like going crazy right now. But, I mean, from my perspective, and I think a lot of other people's perspective, you guys are absolutely killing it, just keeping up with everything. And, just on that front of things, making sure that customers get what it is the right way as well, and not just cutting corners to get products out the door. So really cool. But anyways, Dalen, how have you been?
Good. Really, really good. It's finally starting to get like warm out here, so like I'm venturing outside of my house again. We've had like a meeting all day, so I've been in meetings what felt like since I woke up this morning. So like mentally, I'm a little fried. But no, it's been really nice. I mean, if people are paying attention to some of the other videos, like Charlie mentioned, we're going up to the shop a little bit and having like I get to see humans, which is nice. I'm a very social person, so like it's just nice to have human interaction again.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, been really fun. My cars all run, and like I've been out riding mountain bikes, so it's been a very adventurous life for me.
I wish all my cars ran.
I think I saw last Friday you were, or maybe it was a different day, but you were starting to do some work on the Talon.
Me?
Was it you, or was it somebody else who pulled that in?
No, that's Matt's. That's my original.
That was Kyle's, yeah.
Oh, okay. There's so many cars at the shop. I'm like losing track of whose currently and who sold it to somebody. Now it's theirs, but it still is in the same like parking spot.
Yeah, that blue car is one of our 3 flagship cars we started the business with. And it's back in our business, which is kind of cool. I just told him he needs to make it faster than I had it, and I'm still waiting.
I mean, first it has to start.
It just has to start?
I ran for a little bit, then he took it back apart. I don't know what he's doing.
DSM stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. How fast was it? I guess I wasn't here when that car was, making numbers and whatnot.
I mean, to this day and age, it's not that fast, but
sure.
I think it was, 14, 15 years ago. It went 990s at 149.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like I want to say we kept breaking axles. So we had this kind of babied out of the hole, and it wouldn't get into boost until the 330 mark. And it still went 9s at 149. And at night, I bet that thing was a 165 mile an hour car on a cool day. That was a humid 95-degree day, and we couldn't use the power until the 330. So at the time, it's going to mess everything up it runs into when it comes to the speed of that car. So obviously, it's advanced quite a bit in the last 14 years. But yeah, that car I love that car. I street raced that thing. I drag raced that thing. That car was just a riot to drive. It was a good car.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, and I know I've only had a chance to drive maybe a handful of Talons before, but I mean, a lot of my friends had them going decently fast, not that fast, but they were quick to me at the time. And I just remember, back then, a lot of my friends didn't know anything about building cars, so they do it, incorrectly and blow stuff up all the time. So it was just it was always a fun car to be around though, because when it was working, it was working.
Yeah, yeah, they were definitely interesting. Technologies came such a long way. That car actually had the first billet turbo precision ever made on it. That's how old it is.
Oh,
It had
wow.
like a 71 GTQ precision turbo, which was like people said it wouldn't spool, it wouldn't work, it's not going to work, you'll never get it into boost, and it did work. But it was, I mean, that's just how far. I mean, now there's turbos, like a 3582, like a modern one, will probably make the same amount of power as that turbo would do and spool instantly. So
Yeah.
like they can, in comparison, and then the ECU was, I mean, DSM Link. Hilarious how slow you command a rev limiter and then it would just go past it by like 1,000 RPM because it couldn't keep up with the speed of the acceleration of the engine. So
Right.
at least back in the day, they've done a lot of advancements since then, but obviously this was a long time ago where stuff was pretty archaic.
Right. Yeah, and so looks like we've got some people jumping on and leaving some comments for us saying what's up. If you guys are watching right now, let us know and say hi. We are live right now on Facebook and also our YouTube channel. I'm just going to run through some of these guys' comments here real quick. We all know Circle. Circle says S10 burnouts, or he's not watching the live today.
I wish I could. It's all taken apart. I just got the roll cage all painted, and I'm working on that portion to make it safer at 150 miles an hour. So
okay.
I got yelled at Power Cruise last year by the guy that runs at GUP. And if GUP, I've never been yelled at by GUP for doing something reckless, and apparently crossing the grandstands at BIR on the long straight doing a burnout at 150 is frowned upon.
Apparently
roll cage. So this year I stepped it up quite a bit. I don't want to. That was kind of dumb. I probably shouldn't have been doing it, but you get caught in the moment doing something dumb, and nothing happened. But obviously it's this year I'm good to go.
Right. They just don't want you setting a bad example.
Exactly.
Let's see. We got some questions about platforms. I don't know if the Santa Fe XL will make the list of things that we're making parts for right now, but Anfeld says this is why our phone is always busy. Anfeld, you would be surprised how many people are on the other ends of those phones taking calls all the time. It is crazy busy right now. And I probably wouldn't be able to help you if you have an order you're calling about either. So I wouldn't be a whole lot of help on the phones. But it looks like, let's see. We did get a question. Dalen, you might be able to answer this one. Robert is wondering if PRL opened back up today.
I don't think they closed down.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
No, PRL's been open. They might. I don't know about as far as like their local shop goes, but they've been shipping. I think they're kind of in the same boat that a lot of us are. That the supply chain side of stuff has been difficult.
Sure.
But yeah, no. As far as I know, PRL's been open to shipping. We've been shipping stuff from them. Yeah, no. As far as I know, PRL's been good to go. Actually, I was just talking with a couple of guys over there this morning.
Okay.
So yeah, as far as I know, they're up and going.
Okay. Yeah, Robert, you'll have to let us know if there's something you're waiting on from them or whatever. Just let us know. Lauren, thanks for jumping on. Said his friend had a 95 Talon and a Colt. They flew. He said, bill it all the things. And he said hello. So, Lauren, thanks for jumping on, man. Trying to get around to acknowledging everybody who's on here with us. We really appreciate it. We did get a couple questions. I might save some of these. Edgardo, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but we'll get around to some of these questions here in a little bit. I'm going to kind of can these for a few minutes, so hang tight and we'll get around to it. I just kind of thought it'd be maybe a good idea, Kyle, for a lot of people who don't know you, maybe you could let us know a little bit. I mean, obviously at this point we've picked up that you've got some pretty fast cars and you like to do crazy burnouts, but what else is there to Kyle that we need to know? I mean, maybe a little bit of your history about, map and, startup of that and everything. Just kind of help everybody who's watching us get to know you a little better.
Yeah, I mean, we started in 2006. Me and the CEO Chris Carey, we were joking. We were sitting in his townhome one day. I worked at another performance shop in Minnesota that since closed down. I worked for him, and I was actually working on Chris's car. I was friends with Chris's brother Dan. So we graduated together, and I actually built Dan a S10 with a V8 when I was 15. We built the motor, AFR heads and a bunch of other stuff done to it. At the time, probably 450 horse. So it's pretty cool for a 15-year-old. He got a loan and we built it at my dad's garage. And then that's how I met his brother. And then we went to, I was working on his car at this other shop, and then the shop closed down. And then I kind of basically took his project on in my parents' garage when I was, I think I was 18.
Okay.
18 or 19, I took it along in my parents' garage, and I was doing work like that. I'd earned a reputation of building, Mitsubishis, and that's all we worked on at the time. 3000 GTs, Mitsubishis, Galants, and I was building him. He was trying to make the highest horsepower DSM at the time, like 500 horsepower was the threshold we wanted to cross. Yeah. And he's like, I want to smoke that. I want to make as much as I can. So we started building that car, and I think he had a red second gen, and then we made a 687 wheel when everyone else was making 500.
Wow.
This was a long time ago. I mean, this is
yeah, I mean, that's a huge difference when everybody else is hardly touching 500, Yeah,
500 was unheard of. And yeah, we made 687. And then me and him, I just was working on his cars, working on a bunch of customers' cars that left his shop. I kind of took them on. And then one day we were just joking. He started a little parts sales business out of his townhome, and we're like, I wonder, maybe we should start a shop. You can build the cars, I'll sell the parts. Like, let's just do it. And we're like, haha, that's funny. And then all of a sudden, the next week, me and him were just in his car, in his G35, driving around trying to look at shops and which ones would let us have a dyno, because we decided we needed a dyno, and that's the only way we can do this. And
right.
Yeah, and then we ended up starting a shop with having no clue what we were doing and how to do it, besides just make it work. And
so at this point in time, it's 2006. Maybe some of the other stuff was 2005, or I'm just trying to get the timeline.
Yeah, that was 2005 is when that kind of started, working through that.
Yeah,
and then 2006 came, and then me and him eventually some shop, which was a long ways away from me. I lived in Prescott at the time, and I don't know if it's about a 45-mile drive, so at least an hour centered through the city to get to the opposite side of the city where the shop was. So that was pretty entertaining to do that every day. And and then we started a shop up, and we just worked on broken DSMs, essentially, like clutches and upgrades.
And there's lots of those. That's not a lacking audience.
A shortage of work.
No,
Man, I'm gonna make all the DSM guys mad here today. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
No, they would all come to us with they'd have a tray, like a cooking tray full of all the bolts, like a cupcake tray, and each one had their
single Ziploc bag.
Yep, all the time. Yep,
yeah.
And just make it work. Harnesses all pulled apart, and like halfway through a swap, and we did all that kind of work. And we, Chris actually still worked he sold cell phones at the time, and he was going to college and working selling cell phones, and I was there by myself, arms in a car answering the phone and just working on cars. And eventually we just we bought a dyno, and then we started dyno stuff, and then we bought more lifts, and then we hired Alex, which is our engine builder, and then we just kept advancing on our skills and what we could do. And and then we ended up buying another space, a larger space, because we ran out of space. And then we bought a CNC machine, and then an all-wheel drive dyno. And then we started basically, we've always built race engines, because that's what the shop that I worked for originally, that's what they did a lot of, is building built 4G63s, and we just carried that on. And then it's basically eventually we outsourced all the machining, we'd assemble them all, and then we moved on to buying all the equipment ourselves, and hey, now we're going to learn how to machine stuff, because I want to have all the control, because we weren't getting the quality we wanted. We wanted all the control of how to get it to what we needed to be.
Yeah.
So then we moved on to machining all of our own stuff in our new shop, and then our second shop, because they're the same building, just had another space. And then we went down the road from there, and then and then I think we started having some success. I think my blue car had ran 990s right in the beginning. That one made 709 front wheel horsepower on our front wheel drive dyno, which, like I say, that was another threshold. He crossed the 700 horsepower mark.
And the blue car, again, just for people who don't know what the blue car is.
Yeah, it was a 93 Eagle Talon.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually bought it from my old boss. He actually, just kind of left town, and he left me the title, but the car literally was a dash, a front subframe, and a wiring harness and like the bumpers and the headlights. That's all the car had in it. I actually had to take another car and turn that car back into a full car.
Wow.
But it was clean. So that at the time it was a less than 100,000 mile super clean car. So that's why I wanted it. And luckily he left me the title and before he left town. So that's how that one started. And then from that point on, once you started machining stuff, then we're like, well, let's go for some more records. We at the time if people aren't familiar, we built something called the FD. We're like, hey, let's do some crazy motor swap. I've always been to motor swap. That's why everything I own is modified or swapped. I mean, literally everything. Yeah. Not excluding my camper. So then we decided to do that just as a showcase to our skill set. Like, hey, we can make power. We're making more power than everybody else. We can make power. And, we're like, what car should we use? And then at the time, RX7s, there's good looking cars.
They still are. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one of those cars that like everyone they're rare. So not everyone has them. And they looked really cool. And then we went on some random auction site and found one with no compression and spent like $7,000 at the time, which we thought was like the biggest amount of money to spend on a car that doesn't run. Right. And then completely gut it and turn it into a race car at the time was like, we were taking a lot of risk. We felt like
people
I don't know if this.
Probably thought you were crazy.
Yep. And thought I was to take a lot of risk. And then, of course, when we did it, we're like, well, let's put a huge turbo on. If a 71 millimeter turbo will spool, let's try an 80 mil turbo and let's see how much power. Because our goal right off the bat is we want to make 1,000 horsepower. Like I'm going 7, I'm going right to 1,000. Yeah. And then that was our main goal. And then we ended up building that car, barely getting it running before like a shootout. And we went out there and the converter was wrong. It was auto swap and we couldn't get it to come out of the hole, and it still went like 12.4s, like 154 on its very first pass. Yeah. So because they couldn't get out of the hole, and then then we worked our way up and dynoed it, and for the longest time we couldn't break the 1,000 horsepower through an auto. It made like 997 or 986, and then you just couldn't get the tires to do what we want, and then.
And then VHT on him, trying to get him to stick on the dyno.
Yeah, because it was still an IRS car at the time, so we moved it up to a. And then we're like, well, we just need to go faster. We think we got the car running like down to, I believe, a 930 or 940 at like 154 in the quarter on these little like 26 1050s. With an IRS, just basically do a burnout the entire way down the track. You just kind of keep it from hitting the wall. Yeah. And then we're like, and then one day I've never back-halved a car before. I mean, in our original shop, I built the swap subframe and everything. I used a Sawzall and a chop saw and a MIG welder. But I made it work. I'm very particular and I'm very, I do the best work I possibly can with what tools I have available. I've always done that. Yeah. Then as I advanced, we did better and better. And then that same shop, once I started doing those swaps, I'm like, well, I've always been a welder. I've been a MIG welder for a long time. Like, I'm going to buy a TIG welder and teach myself how to TIG weld. So then I could teach somebody else how to TIG weld so that we could start making stuff. Right. Because we didn't want to sell anybody else's parts. We're working on cars, like, let's make some stuff. So then we decided to make some stuff. And then we started building engines, making stuff. And then we started TIG welding all at the same time. And I think that then I go, well, I'm going to try to back half. I never back half a car in my life. And I'm like, I'm going to back half this RX7, never doing it. I got that all figured out. We bought all the parts, got it working. And then we, like I say, all the stuff was the same setup. And then we got a full cage in it and got all that stuff done. And then we went out and ran it, and I think that we went out to E-Town in New Jersey, and I want to say, man, I don't know when this was. They moved the DSM shootout, and it went to New Jersey for 1 year. And we went out there, and we qualified number 1, so we had the fastest car at the track. We ran our very first 8. We ran 880s, I want to say at 165, I believe. And it was such a hot, crappy day. The track was just ruined because it was like 105 degrees and humid. And like we let off at the 1,000-foot mark. We qualified number 1 and the number 1 trap speed at the day. I think we ended up, I don't remember if we won the event or not, but I know that it was significant. It was a really hard day for everyone to race because it was so hot. Yeah. And that really carried us forward. And then everybody's like, well, what's in that? I want to build that. And then we're like, then we got into Evos, Evo 89s. And then we're like, well, I actually originally bought the Evo 89 not for our shop car. That was never the intent. And I bought it because I'm like, I want an Evo. Like, we build 4G60s all the time. Like, the Evo is the new thing. And me being me, I'm like, well, I'm gonna mod this thing so much I don't want to buy a stock car.
Yeah. Right.
So we went out to on some auction website. I bought a $7,000 roller.
Okay.
With nothing. It was like a theft recovery. So the body was mint. It had like 50,000 miles on it. And then I was building up myself, and I got this car like pretty much almost running. And then, me and Chris were going, hey man, maybe we should turn this into a shop car. And I'm like, well, I just bought this for myself. I don't really want to, I want a daily driver. That's what I wanted because I've been working so hard. And then he ended up trading me another FD RX7 that had an LS swap in it. It was a stock, like a 6-liter, and that was almost done too. And he's like, that was one of our shop cars that we were building. And then we realized that that's not really our market. So we ended up trading those two cars. He gave me some money for the Evo for the RX7. And then I finished the RX7 and the Evo. So, and then, like I said, then that was the point where we were like, the RX7 just made 1,000 wheel horsepower at that time. And then we ended up getting it all the way down to 8.1s at 171. And that was a full King Street class car. That was DOT tires. That was windows, rolled up and down. It was a power sunroof. I mean, it was a legit King Street car, which is a little different, a little more difficult because there's weight constraints.
Okay.
But we were hardcore at the time into, like, I've never been a hardcore race car guy. I want to drive the vehicles. If I want a fast car, I want to drive it.
Yeah.
We don't do it much anymore, but back in the day, we did a lot of street racing. So that's what we used to do. We don't do that anymore.
Right.
And then that kind of, then we go to the Evo. We made our goal is 1,000 on we're going to make 1,000 horsepower. And we built the motor. At the time, I actually machined the motor and assembled it at the time.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, I haven't assembled I assemble engines all the time, but I haven't done that for our shop for a number of years.
Right.
And then, I think I designed the manifold, and I think one of our fabricators welded the manifold together. And then we did all the other, components. Car thought about the airflow, ported the head, so on and so forth. And then we ended up making 1,053 wheel horsepower on a stock ECU. And then pretty much after that kind of sealed our fate to everybody going, hey, we broke the 4-digit mark. And at the time, and no one had done it at the time. At the time, there was, like, you heard like a rumor of a guy that has like a dynograph, with a little spike in it that went over 1,000. And then we came out, and ours was, I think it was 1,800 RPMs over 1,000 horsepower. So it wasn't like a little fluke or a little, little.
It happened to spike that high for a brief second,
Yeah, it was a legit power number, and it took a long time for people to end up beating that. But everyone goes, I want that motor. If you guys can build motors that do that, I want that.
Yeah.
So then that really started. We really started taking off on building a ton of engines. And then we're starting like getting to the parts game. So now we're building engines. We're working on cars. Now at this point we're selling a ton of parts.
Right.
We have have a little warehouse above our other. At this time we bought our third shop in that same same building. We bought the third one. And then, like I said, then after that, we were like, well, let's start, I guess, fabbing some stuff. And our very first product, I think it's a question that you had for me. The very first product we ever made was an Evo 89 O2 eliminator. I had been making O2 eliminators for DSMs for a number of years, and we were using aluminized steel, and we were MIG welding them at the time. I mean, they were good MIG welds. We're pretty good at MIG welding at the time, but that was our expertise. And so we made those, and a lot of the companies using aluminized steel. And then we started making those products. And I'm like, since we're making the DSM O2 eliminators for local customers, and we're like, well, what if we made an Evo O2 eliminator for the Evo 89 instead of this O2 housing stuff, and made it full 3-inch all the way through external dump, external wastegate. And then we started making off, and I think to this day we still make those downpipes. They still sell well. Yeah. We've been making those for years and years and years, and they've evolved from something that was MIG welded and coated with VHT paint to like these these CNC flange, just beautiful works of art that we've over the years have kept pushing the line to be, gain skills and gain gain the machinery in order to do the stuff that we're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then that kind of set us up, and then we made a big decision once we got to a certain point. We're like, we need another shop. We're out of room again, and we're like, we don't want to pay rent to someone for nothing. We were paying a lot at the time for rent, and we're like, we don't want to do this anymore. And then all of us were sick of driving to Plymouth every single day. We all lived in the other side of the cities that we were from, and let's just start a shop in our hometown. We happened to find a vacant warehouse that was brand new that had nothing built out in, and we got a really good deal on it. And then I remember signing the paperwork. Me and Chris were signing it, and I went to the meeting with him, and we were like, are we going to be able to do this? Are we going to be able to afford this? Can we make this work? I mean, it was a 20,000 square foot warehouse, and
right.
And then then we came here and we really doubled down on what we were doing. We hired more staff. We bought more inventory. We kind of just went all the way, and we actually ended up stopped working on cars soon after. We moved to this big shop and we set up working on cars.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the business took us a different route, and it's creating a ton of headache for us. And we were selling so many parts and making so much stuff, we just couldn't divide 3 businesses into one.
Yeah.
So we decided to give up on the one that created us the most pain.
Right.
And then working on people's cars, just at the time we were too big. You get to a certain size when you're working on cars, and then they just assume that anything goes wrong with the car for the rest of the life of it, it's on you. Yeah. And then they're like, it's no big deal to you guys. You guys are a big company now, so you guys can just fix my car. And it ended up just becoming more of a. It wasn't worth the effort. We were building them engines or building their full cars and repairing. A guy brings a car in here, the motor blowing up. It blew up for a reason. And generally speaking, it's because there's a bunch of other things wrong with the car, the fuel system, the induction system, and so on, the tuning, and everything. And then once they're all said and done, you're not expecting to fix all that stuff, and you end up having to do it. But we made a choice, and we doubled down on our manufacturing here, and then bought another CNC machine, and then started making a ton of billet stuff and supporting our fab team. Then we eventually bought some mandrel benders. And then we started mandrel bending all of our own tubing because we were using so much stainless steel that we couldn't buy bends anymore because it was becoming unrealistic to order a couple hundred bends from each vendor at a time and hope we get them.
Yeah.
So then we started doing that. Then we also, then we warehouse more, hired more people, and now today now we're just rocking and rolling and every year. I'm surprised by how much we grow and how much more business we do and how better, we become better every single year.
Right. Well, and I'm obviously newer here, but the more I learn about the history, it's like the more I realize it's just like been a hold on, and it's just kind of continually gotten busier. And fortunately, you and Chris and everybody else on the leadership team is, really knowledgeable, and they're able to make great decisions. So it looks like we do have a ton of comments here from people so far that I want to get caught up on before we dive into some more stuff. I'm going to back it up, though, a little bit. Looks like Shane Mishke. Do you know him? Is he your cousin?
He's my cousin.
Yeah. He left a pretty good comment for you. Just, your builds are awesome and crazy. He's glad that you're on here to answer some other people's questions, and, how great it is that maps come a long way and whatnot. So it looks like Lauren Darrow, he's left us quite a few comments. I just kind of want to run through this. First off, one caught my eye that he recently left that he's got all kinds of vehicles. He's owned a 90 FC Turbo 2, 3 FDs. Sorry, someone else left the comment, and now I just lost my spot. He lived in Japan for 4 years, currently has a 14 MR right now. Said basically found us looking for Evo parts. He was looking for Evo parts, stumbled across us. Looks like he said he also used to have a Tommy Mackin edition Evo 5 and a stock Evo 5.
Yeah, those have cool turbos out of those. Tommy Mackins have some pretty cool turbos on them. Back when we used to build turbos, those they have titanium impellers and titanium aluminide turbine wheels. They're pretty sophisticated for that age of car.
Right. But Lauren Darrell did have a question for you, Kyle. He said he's wondering if you've ever worked on an old Apache. What do you think of them? My cousin's obsessed with those trucks. He had an 04 SX, he thinks.
Like the Chevy Apache, like the super old ones.
I'm guessing it's not the helicopter.
No, like the Chevy Apache, like the 50s. Yeah, I never worked on any of that. I mean, the old car wise, we've done a Resto Mod 69 Camaro, and I've done some other old cars, but yeah, some G body stuff. Most of our stuff that I've ever done is usually modern stuff. I'm definitely a swap guy. I swap everything I own that I've ever owned. It's got some sort of built motor or it's been swapped. I love doing engine swaps. That's kind of my thing.
Yeah. Looks like Mitsu the Evo 10. Welcome back. By the way, to hit Mitsu, I saw your comment on the new video we released last Sunday. Glad you like the Evo 10 build series we're coming out with now. But your question is, do you guys have any experience with the dual oil cooler from Mishimoto for the Evo 10? Any fitment issues? He said reviews after some time, suggestions on another similar product. Just curious. Just kind of like an overall, what do we have for feedback form on the dual oil cooler from Mishimoto?
I have never really used one. We make our own here. I've never really used one. I mean, it seems like overkill depending on what you're doing. But yeah, obviously you got to monitor your oil temperature and make sure that's in line. And then, according to, how hot you're racing, if you're road racing, everything has a different application depending on what you're using it for. There's no, I mean, in my opinion, as long as you have a thermostat, there's no such thing as too big of a cooler, as long as you get airflow to it and you have it thermostatic, because the oil can run too cold. And actually, you won't be able to evaporate the moisture out of your oil fatigue really quickly. So that's just a recommendation.
Do we know anybody that's run anything like that anywhere near a considerable amount of time? I guess it sounds like
RX7s run twin ones all the time, but they just run super hot. I honestly have never seen an Evo one. I've never seen it run like it exists. I've seen it exist, but I've never seen one like in person or somebody using it. Like a big 34-row Setrab or Mocool or Mocal, like 25 or 34 rows, usually kind of the standard.
Yeah. By the way, Dalen, Corey Kirchner says that you've got a really loud keyboard. Are you a gamer, bro?
No, honestly, I'm
you just got really strong fingers.
I'm the farthest from a gamer of like honestly anyone you've ever met. This is somebody left this keyboard behind in my at the shop, and it was like covered in dust, and my keyboard broke. And when I needed a new keyboard, this was what was handed to me, and I just like it.
Well, there you go.
Oh, it's even ergonomic.
Yeah, it's got quite the ergos. It's made by Logitech. I don't know if you've heard of them. They seem pretty big.
Logical technology.
Yeah, Logical Technologies, for those of you that might not be aware of them. No, it's just loud.
Yeah, we got another one from Edgardo. He said he was on the website. Sounds like he was looking at suspension. He said, I just saw you added the new Super Pro. Is it a good brand? He's trying to get all parts from one brand.
I think he asked something about the Tension Honda stuff earlier too. If I remember, I'm going to scroll up real quick. My mouse isn't noisy, but it's the same brand. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, he asked if there were any more upgrades coming out for the 10th gen platform for the Honda Civic. Yeah.
So Honda-wise, we have some stuff in the works. Our turbo kit, a few other parts that are kind of coming down the pipeline. We've been super, 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 super busy with our current orders that we're trying not to release new parts right now. Good, bad problems to have. As far as Super Pro goes, I can absolutely speak to them because they are one of the brands that I helped onboard here. I'm a big fan. I've used them in the past a lot. They're a high quality, good bushing. They make a lot of their own suspension arms. So like they have a lot of cast arms with like built-in roll center adjusters. Super good brand. I've used them in a lot of street applications, race applications, torture tested them, and they've put up with anything I've ever been able to throw at them. We changed so many parts on our car so often that like sometimes I forget what's in there and what's not. But we have had some Super Pro parts on our 10th gen at one point in time. We might have swapped them out to do some other testing. but they fit great. They worked awesome. Highly recommend them. Anything they have, I would absolutely use.
We had another someone looking for a part recommendation here by Pedro 92371. Says, "Hey guys, looking for a quieter Evo 9 exhaust. I need help, or he needs to keep the car. I need to keep the car quieter on long cruises and wife friendly, but would like to have some room for power still. Any suggestions on that front?"
We do make an exhaust. I think we make one for Evo 89.
We don't have it for the Evo 89. I was just gonna say that though. An Evo 89 VARX muffler would be like perfect.
Yeah,
that would be perfect.
No,
I don't think we have any. We did at one point make an Evo 89 one. I think that because that market was very, very saturated with parts, we might not have continued with it because it needed a bunch of updates at one point just to kind of. I mean, like Kyle mentioned earlier, we've been making parts since at this point the early 2000s. So a part that was made in 2007 or 2008 is not like the parts, the jigs, how we made it, what we made it out of. Like if that falls into line with some stuff that we make today, we're just gonna laugh at it and like we won't sell it. Like,
yeah,
like right then that was cutting edge. We were happy with it. Now we're like, no. So I think Evo 89 Catback is one of those where it kind of just it didn't grow with us as much. So I would recommend not the Tomy Extreme. That's the opposite of what you're looking for.
Probably the wrong direction.
I always like the HKS was the super high power for those. They have huge mufflers. The HKS twin power also for those is pretty solid. A little bit deeper, a little bit nicer sounding, a little more like refined. I don't know if Gretty still makes theirs. Gretty had a really nice one.
I mean, does Varix, maybe Varix makes a catback for those? I mean, we usually weld their mufflers onto our pipes, and then those things are really slick. They have a little key fob to make your car quiet when you're cruising through your neighborhood, but then you can just open it. It's basically straight 3-inch again. You get all the power you want. So I mean, that's I don't know if they actually make an exhaust for that. I know they make one for an Evo 10, but I'm not sure about an older one. If you have a buddy that can buy an exhaust and then put their muffler on it.
Right. Yeah, if you're pretty handy with the welder.
Yep.
Delta 55 says, sorry, your first comment, Delta. I'm trying to get back to you. He said, "Hi, hope you're all doing well. Luckily, our crew, Eric, working on the comments there, got back to him with the comments. Likewise, we are all three of us also thinking the same thing. Hope you're doing well, Delta 55. Thanks for joining us." He said he's got all map parts in his EcoBoost Stang. Been loving it. We do great work, top notch. He also is saying he'd love to own an Evo 9 at some point, but needs a better job. We're hiring for some certain positions at MAP. So depending on what you like to do, check out the hiring postings.
Be careful though, because when you work here, you just spend more money. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Most of us don't even actually get a paycheck. It just goes right back into paying off the debt that we owe the company from all the parts that we ordered. So be careful with that one.
I'll feel free to do a hiring plug. I'll do a hiring plug, but you get parts at cost.
Yeah, there you go.
If you work here, so I mean, it gets a lot cheaper.
Your money goes a little further. You just spend more of it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I did look it up. So we do have our map catback for Evo 89 with the VARX muffler. It's definitely an older listing, but we do still offer it for sale, which means we still have the jigs for it. And it does have our bends, like the photos of it are all correct. So this is a real part. It is available. So
okay.
Well, there you go.
MAP space EVO -VCBE. And then you choose which bumper you have. Man, we were confused at part numbers back in the day. We made them difficult.
You blame it on Bill.
That's true. It's all Bill's fault.
Delta did have a question wondering about OTS map tunes for the EcoBoost. Is that anything we're coming out with? Yeah,
for the EcoBoost Mustang?
Mustang, yep.
We don't have them any longer at this time. It's one of those where it was something that we had gone after quite a while. The market just became something that we were not as competitive in and haven't had the time to do the updates for. It's not that there isn't something on the horizon at some point, but I couldn't put a time frame to it, unfortunately.
Yeah. We did get one question here from Corey. He says, how are you going to get Kyle to go compete against Cletus at Burnout Masters?
Well, so I am going to Cletus and Cars in November, and he's going to get smoked by me is what's going to happen. He's got no chance.
Somebody tagged Cletus in the comments.
I already tagged Cletus in a couple Burnout videos, and I challenged him a couple times. I mean, I love what he does. He's a great guy. He's always out there having fun. When it comes to Burnouts, though, I've had a lot more practice, and I'll go way harder.
You got a lot to prove.
If I have to go to 5th gear, I will.
Yeah. If I've got to grab 5th, I'm reaching.
Yep.
Brad was wondering if we do eTune stuff. Brad, we don't. Is there anywhere? I mean, depending on the platform, I'm sure you guys have different people you'd recommend.
Yeah, there's a million of them out there, depending on the platform, depending on what you're trying to get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a million options, and yeah.
Well, we've got some more comments, but I did want to kind of transition here before we address every other one. While we were talking about burnouts and stuff, Kyle, to some people it's just controlled chaos. To some people it's an art form. But for you, I mean, how did you get so good at doing burnouts? You just did a lot of them, or what?
So ever since I was a kid, I mean, I'm going to start off in the beginning of why, and I don't know why.
Because I've seen also videos of your brother doing some burnouts.
He learned it from me.
Okay.
My very first vehicle I had, I don't know how I got in, but I had a 71 Ford F100 that my dad had. I worked for my dad for the summer, and he ended up, I earned the truck from him. I think I paid like $600 for it. Nothing fancy, but I earned it. And it had a 3 on the tree shifter, and then we converted it to a 3 on the floor shifter. And my dad couldn't get it working right, so that was kind of why I started working on it and figuring out how to use it. And then we ended up, I kept driving around the neighborhood, and I was like 12 or 13. Okay. And keep in mind, we didn't really live in the country. It was like it's a normal neighborhood, and it's frowned upon to be driving a car around when you don't have a license. So they bring it up to my grandparents' house up in northern Wisconsin because I could drive it there. I mean, not theoretically, but they had their own road. I mean, they had a farm, so they had their own farm road. And there was no one to do anything, so they let me drive it there. So I just started. I thought burnouts were fun, so I'd V8 and rev it up, drop the clutch, and do burnouts with the one wheel wonders. And I'd always be doing burnouts. I thought that was the most fun you could ever have in a car, is doing burnouts. And then I ended up taking a little washer fluid tank with some bleach, and you'd have a button in there, and it would spray bleach on the tire. My grandma got mad because I stole all of her bleach. And that's kind of how it started. I started just doing burnouts, and I've always been into race cars and all that stuff, but I just, if I could go up an on-ramp and high powered V8 or something and paint lines all of the on-ramp, it makes my day. So I don't know, I'm just like I'm my little kid inside, just like I can't get enough of burnouts. I can watch them. And then that V8 S10 that I was telling you that I built, that 355 with AFR heads, during my graduation party, I told my mom I worked from when I was 15 till I graduated in this truck. Like I didn't buy, we were poor. We said whatever we could make work, we had to make work. So we built everything with our MIG welder. And I was like, you know what, Mom, it's my graduation. I feel really proud of this truck. Can I do a burnout in front of the house?
Yeah.
In our suburban neighborhood that we lived in. And my mom was like super mad, did not like burnouts, but she let me do this one. And knowing me, I was going to take everything to, there's a line, I'm going to 12.
Right.
So I just did the biggest burnout ever, trying to pop the tires in front of my house, and then did a burnout all the way down the road. That's kind of just, that was what we did. We didn't really care about the racing at the time. It was more about, I want something fast so I can do burnouts. And
I've got a buddy who just he's been building it, runs and drives right now and everything, but he's been doing work to it to make it a little better. But he's got a Datsun truck. I don't know the exact model, older one, with an LS junkyard motor in it. And I mean, it's like the most addicting thing that he's ever owned ever. And I mean, he just can't stop doing burnouts like everywhere. I mean, like we did one in his driveway. Full shitties, like he's done them all over the place. Everywhere he goes, he can't help but do burnouts. But I mean, a lot of people, I can't say a lot of people, but for people who don't like own a rear wheel drive car, or they have an all wheel drive car, where burnouts are just harder, you got to have a higher number to do one. It's something that it's just fun. It's just like good hearted fun. It's not as, I don't know that it's as serious as racing. and so it's still fun on all aspects.
It's weird because it's getting there with seriousness.
True. And that's why I almost didn't even say that, because it is getting to be a little more serious.
The prices are going up, and I mean, my intent with my S10 that I currently have as my burnout rig, I didn't intend that to be a burnout rig. I intended that to be a 400 horsepower, a little bit of steering angle improvement, like a drift truck. I just want to go out there and have fun with my friends. I raced for a number of years. We did a ton of racing. I'm like, I just want to go out and not worry about it and just have some fun. Every time I go out there, it's like you bring the race trailer, you bring all the tools, and everyone's got a job to do, and everyone's got a so on and so forth. I'm like, let's just have some fun.
Right.
And in my true nature, I don't know. I'm like, I'm going to build something simple. And now I have a completely custom chassis, LSA swapped. I mean, what's left of an S10? I mean, very, very little of it's left.
An emblem, maybe?
The what?
An emblem?
Yeah, the emblem. Yeah, well, it's a Sonoma from the front, actually. So it's got a little bit of, it doesn't know what it is. It's actually the longest vehicle I've ever owned, and it just got out of hand. I was like, well, if I'm going to add it, I got this blower laying around, I'll throw that on there. If I'm going to add that, I might as well build the motor. And if I build the motor, I need a better transmission. So then I, put a Magnum 6060 in it, and then so on and so forth. And I think that, and then when I built that truck, I'm like, I'm huge about reliability. I mean, I've had so much lessons and so much learning from all the things we've done over the years of developing products to know what works and doesn't work. And I want to go out and have fun. I don't want to work on my vehicle. I'll work on it on my weekends, but when I go up there, I don't want to be laying under my truck working on it. So I built a vehicle. I'm like a huge cooling system. I have a manual transmission cooler, an engine oil cooler, a power steering electric fan cooler, a supercharger aftercooler fan. And then I have, radiators in the rear, and everything was built. So basically everything's cooled, everything's temperature controlled, because that's really the key with anything is controlling your temperatures. And then everything I built, I'm like, well, I know I want to make some power. So I'm a built motor and a built tranny, and then I got a built rear end. So everything is built. And then, and somebody's like, well, I like burnouts. Like, hey, let's do the burnout contest. I was like, okay, well, most guys just like cruise around in first gear. Like, let's see what third, let's just cruise around in third. Let's put some to it, and everyone does little cookie cutter tires. And when I'm doing burnouts, I start out with a brand new set of 275 35 18s. Because that's what gives you the most smoke. Even the Aussies don't really run that big of tires. I don't know why they run small tires, but maybe it's a cost thing. I don't know. You can buy 18s for relatively. I have a sponsor that helps me out with the tires because we go through so many.
Corey somebody was asking how you can afford tires doing all them burnouts.
Well, like fortunately for me, is I think about it strategically, and I put a lot of effort to winning. So I don't just go out there like, hey, I'm going to do a burnout. I plan out what I'm going to do. I maintain my vehicle. I make sure that it's going to happen what I want to happen. So it's getting more serious where I'm taking it as a serious. I really want to make burnouts like Australian level, where they're doing judging and they're doing, how long did you make that 60-second duration without blowing his tires, and then how much control, how much smoke, and then the tip-ins. People see other people do burnouts, but when you see a burnout that's done, by an Aussie or by somebody that's taking it seriously, it's a little different. And it kind of started out just somebody saying at Proving Grounds, I got my truck, and I was like, hey, you should do the burnout contest. Well, I like burnouts. So, and then just in my own true fashion, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Either I'm going to blow something up or I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And we went out there and just really started doing it. And then all of a sudden I stepped the game up there, and then everyone basically just wants me to continue to do it. And then I just kind of got into the habit of doing it and keep upgrading my vehicle to make it more suitable for burnouts. But I mean, I sit on a 70 300 RPM rev limiter in a V8 for sometimes up to 1 minute 30 seconds. I'm wide open throttle. So I mean, that's not an easy feat to keep cool and keep from starting on fire. It takes you have to think about how you're going to build a vehicle like that, because most like drag cars, they don't say wide open throttle that long. They just need to cool, and they're moving. They're going down the drag strip at 100 something miles an hour. Sometimes they could go in like 40 to tip in, but 40, 50 miles an hour. But you're usually going pretty slow. So you don't get any airflow. Plus, rubber doesn't cool very well.
Not usually.
Rubber air usually clogs everything up. So. And that's kind of how I got into burnouts, and I'm in love with them. That's all I want to do. I like doing rolling burnouts. I like doing, the the burnouts and burnout pads. I mean, I've only lost one burnout, and since the last like 3 years I've been doing it, I've only lost one competition, and the one I lost, I think I actually had the highest views. I think I did the best burnout I've ever done in that one, but it was the judge at the time confused the crowd. But I'll take a loss. But I'm pretty much undefeated. The other guy didn't even blow his tires, so I blew both of mine. But it's sometimes the way it goes. But yeah, my goal is I want to build a brand. Maybe not a brand, but I want to build an Australian level burnouts in America. I want to go into places and people put serious money into it, and go do that, because it's just something different. I guess I want to do something different. I mean, I've done drag racing. I like off-roading a lot. I have a turbocharged rock crawler that I built. I'm huge into off-roading too, but burnouts are my jam.
Yeah, right.
So much so that his S10 was getting worked on, he had to build another LS powered truck, just in case.
I do have another one.
Wasn't done. So Charlie, you might not even know that Kyle has like a backup daily burnout truck too.
Of course. I mean, in case your other burnout truck breaks down, how else are you gonna do burnouts?
Exactly. I do have an LS3 swapped Colorado. With a 6L90 6-speed swap in it, transmission. That actually is what actually started the really big burnout craze. We did a burnout, just like me and my brother were joking. My brother's kind of good at videoing, and he knows how to kind of set you up to make it look good. He's got an eye for it, kind of like Bloom does. He's got that eye. He knows exactly what to do. He's like, do it this way, look this way, and then he's like, just go do a burnout. I'm like, why not? Let's go do a burnout. Why not? I think it was like Thanksgiving weekend, and then we did one, and then we ended up getting it shared everywhere. And I think it had, over a million views. I mean, it's just like a Facebook thing, just from doing a burnout in my Colorado, because that's just, and then that's, it's like, man, that's kind of cool. People are starting to recognize, and then people are starting to enjoy it more. And I just, honestly, if it inspires somebody to have some fun, do a burnout. Everyone likes burnouts. Maybe not everybody, but most people like burnouts. They're never happier after they left them. So.
Right.
And they're fun to watch.
I think that something like more like a competition and things like that, where there's, more, I guess, structured judging and things like that. Like everything kind of reaches a point. Anything has to be started that way. Somebody has to love it enough to structure it in a way that makes sense. And that's how, any type of racing, I'm sure, kind of started. Somebody liked to go fast. That's how drag, like someone wanted to go fast in a straight line, race to the next stoplight.
See, NASCAR happened because they had to get away from the cops with all the booze in the back of their car. So not all of it.
But it was born out of necessity, People
needed the booze.
Yeah, they needed the booze. But no, I mean, again, I think that if there's definitely enough people who enjoy it for it to be a thing. I think that we could. I think that you're just the guy to make something like that happen.
I'm hoping so. I think that if I've seen a lot of people are getting a lot better every year. They're getting better and they're trying harder. I'm also every year. I'm like, what do I need to do so I can try to win? You know what I mean? It's not a guarantee. What do I have to do to put one more element in it to make it harder to harder for people
or whatever.
Yeah, and it's I think about it a lot. I think about it. I wish I had a place to practice to give me a little bit more offset, but if I think I'll get arrested if I do that. What I do at a burnout contest on the street. I mean, my truck's pretty rowdy when it comes to, And last year, Power Cruise, we had all the Aussies out there, and an editor for a burnout magazine said he gave me a lot of positive encouragement. He gave me some lessons. He told me, hey, do a little of this, do a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
But he encouraged me. He's like, you should come over to Aussie. He goes, you come out of Australia. I bet you could place in the top 16. So that was very encouraging to me from a guy that runs a burnout magazine, to tell me that, my truck sounds like an Aussie burnout car. And I'm like, well, it's an American one, but I'll take it.
Yeah, that's a good compliment from him.
Yeah, I'll take it. I would love to bring my truck to Australia and go to a Power Cruise burnout contest. Over there, it's pretty serious. They pay, I think, last year, I think he said that he paid $100,000 to the winner of the burnout contest. So, I mean, when it comes to a serious sport.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't get much more serious than $100,000.
Yeah, which I think is insane. I mean, they have multiple rounds they have to go through, and their judging's pretty strict, so I'd have to learn their rules. But it's Australians, they get down with burnouts. It's a good time.
Sounds like we got to get you some vacation time to go there then.
No, I just got to get my thing in a container and not get it taken away. That's the thing I'm worried about. It's a long trip.
Yeah. Well, I got one more question for you before we wrap things up today. I know we had some other questions in the comments, but I know you're busy and we all got stuff going on. We're going to definitely save these for another time because these are really good questions. But what I had the question for you was, with all these different things that you've done outside of, MAP now, like you've been building cars since you were, 12? You've been driving since you were 12, building cars since you were 15. You've been doing all these different things. You have this crazy burnout trucks with an insane amount of thought behind them. How does that kind of relay into what you do at MAP? I know a lot of it definitely carries over, but I mean, what have you found as far as like parallels, or how does it help you on that sort of front?
I guess the passion of building of mine, the way I look at it is if I'm working in my shop on the weekends, I'm learning. I'm always learning. Every time you try something new, you're going to learn. You're going to learn what doesn't work, what works, and all of that reliability. I've learned a lot. I mean, the skills I fostered or bolstered, at M Performance, from the skill set of everybody. We collaborate as a team. We have a bunch of really skilled people, and everybody has a different approach to how to build something.
Yeah.
That if you take a bunch of smart people that build things all the time and you put them in a room, you can come up with something really good.
Yeah.
The combined knowledge. And like I say, I work a lot building stuff and I learn things and I try to apply them into what did or didn't work in what I'm doing. They all apply. I mean, from welding techniques to how you route exhaust to I'm a huge airflow guy. So everything to me is all about airflow. I mean, everything I do is all about, it's an air pump and it's pumping air. So the least restriction you can make air pump, the better the air pump's going to perform. So I look at it from every angle for reliability. I mean, my truck has been doing burnouts, been doing that for, now I'm going on my 4th year. I think my 4th year of doing it. And I haven't done really any major maintenance to it. I mean, I've changed the oil, but I haven't, replaced the clutch and changed my oil. And I placed some synchros in my transmission from, no lifting 3rd and 4th during burnouts. It's hard on it. But besides that, the engine stayed together. That engine's built, was built in house. I built the long block, but one of our engine machinists here blueprinted and, machined and built the short block for me. And then built my cylinder heads. I like to assemble them. So yeah, but that's just a testament to the skill set we have in this building. Without, we learned something from all that. He's always chomping the bit trying to get me to take my engine out so he can look at it. He's like, I want to see what happened to it. You beat on it so hard. And that's the first question everybody asks me, how often do you replace your engine? And I'm like, I don't. It just, eventually it's going to explode. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
What I'm doing to it, it's not nice. It stays cool though. It runs. I can do a burnout for 1:30 on a truck makes 750 wheel horsepower, and I can stay wide open throttle. For 1:30, and it doesn't get over 180 degrees. So that's a testament to
insane to me.
Really big radiator and 5 gallons of coolant and really big fans is how that happens. But it gets so hot under the engine. The biggest thing I got to worry about on that is fire. Because the header glows almost white. It's got an 8-to-1 header on it. I built it, used some of our Mando bends here and built it at my house. And
I think Corey was asking if you're going to move away from the 8-to-1 header this season.
No, I'm going to leave the 8-to-1 header on there. I have plans if I can get it done. Obviously I don't have very much time these days. If I can get it done, I'm going to run full 4-inch exhaust all the way out the back. I did a fender dump originally because I just wanted to get it done. And it's kind of stayed that way. I love the 8-to-1 header because who doesn't have an LS swapped S10 in the world? I wanted something different. And 8-to-1 headers, they're so hard to make that a lot of people, it's hard for somebody to emulate it because it takes a lot of dedication. I think that, I consider myself a pretty skilled fabricator, and it took me 45 hours to make because it's sequential fire. So it's got to follow the firing order. You got to make it all come apart in the truck. So you can take it out. I have inner fenders that I wanted to keep in my truck. So a lot of engineering and time went into building that. And a lot of people aren't willing to dedicate that much to just exhaust. But I want it to sound different and be different than a normal S10 because I just like little trucks. They don't make very many little trucks anymore, so that's the reason I built it. I'm a huge truck guy. When it comes to, I like fast trucks, and I want a small truck though. I don't want to be real cruising on a full size. It takes way too much power.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, just again, I mean, 45 hours for that header. I mean, that's a lot of time. I mean, that's more work than a lot of people do in a week at their job. You know, that's just insane. It's more than a full week's worth of work for most people.
That's just one item, and my truck, I buy parts, not a single part. I mean, my front suspension's all custom made, my frame's custom made, my rear suspension's custom made, my header, my engine position. There's nothing. It's got a rack and pinion. It steers. I think my truck steers 55 or 60 degrees of steering angle with 285 tires on it. It's got C6 Z06 spindles and brakes all around. So everything I've ever built in that truck everything's custom. I don't buy parts. I mean, I kind of wish at some point that I was like, hey, let's get a vehicle I can just buy parts for. Because it gets you wear out your angle grinder. That's all I do is if somebody asks me the number one thing I do in my garage, I grind tabs with a 4.5-inch grinder. I'm making a tab of some sort. And this year I just bought myself, I sold some engines and I bought myself a CNC plasma table, a little hobby one for my garage, because that's the number one thing that I'm sick of is making tabs by hand. Because that's all my whole truck is like. Let's get a piece of paper out, let's cut it out, and let's scribe some lines, and let's get the 4.5-inch grinder out. It works. It's the best tool for the job. I have a plasma cutter, I have a bandsaw, but by far the 4.5-inch grinder is the tool.
Yeah. Well, gosh, I mean, there's just so much work that goes into it. It's so many late nights and early mornings, things like that to just pull it together. I mean, and you're always at the shop working too. I mean, so I can't imagine where you find the time to work on these cars, especially because again, there's hardly, if anything, that's just bought and put on the vehicle itself. So I applaud you. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's my hobby. I mean, everyone's got something. That's my thing. So if I'm not working at the shop, I'm thinking about working on my truck. And if I'm anywhere else, I like working on stuff. It's fun. And honestly, for me, I like to foster. I have a bunch of friends that we build their cars too in my garage, and that like camaraderie between friends it's most about the experience to me. It's not about what you're doing. It's about who you're doing it with. And honestly, with my friends, we hang out, we drink some beers, we build a bunch of cool stuff. We go out to power crews, we go to these events and just have a good time. My brother does a lot of drifting, and my brother's a driver, not a builder. He'll build stuff, but he definitely likes driving way more than building. He's a really good driver, but and I love that to have my brother's one of my good friends, and another of my good friends is building another LSA swapped S10. He's seen my stuff. He's copying my S10 and putting it into his Colorado. So he could do burnouts and stuff like that. 'Cause he goes, he just thought that's the most fun. He drove my truck one time. I let him drive it at Power Cruise last year. He drove it one time, and he goes, "Whatever you got, I want." He goes, "I'm going to get a loan. Let's do this."
How much money do I need? Just tell me.
Yeah, he drove it once. He's like, "That's the most fun I've ever had at Power Cruise." He's been to every single one. He goes, "You just need the right vehicle." So, I like being able to be inspired and inspire others to build stuff, because honestly, it's so fun, and it keeps you out of trouble. To be honest with you, keeps you doing something, and you're always learning. And that's the thing is, the more you do it, the more you learn. And I think that's very important in this day and age to people, all the crazy world, to focus on something that gives you enjoyment, not always pain. So
yeah, exactly. Well, Kyle, thanks again for making the time to jump on here and just talk for a bit. And we were able to help some customers out too that had some questions in the chat, so I'm glad we were collectively able to provide some feedback to everybody here who is joining us. For everybody who's still on, thank you so much. These live shows or streams, whatever you want to call them, they're a lot harder when there's no one in the comments, helping ask the questions and things like that. So really appreciate it. Even if you're just wondering for your own personal build, it definitely helps. Dalen, it's also nice to have you here too. I
was very vocal today. I'm sorry for taking over the conversation.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Next time, be more quiet.
Just me and my keyboard hanging out.
A lot of technology.
I tried to type quieter. That way I wasn't bothering. I just went one finger at a time.
I'm sure Corey appreciates it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Corey. All right. Trying to do my job.
for everybody who maybe jumped on late or wasn't able to catch the whole thing, just so you guys do know, these do get posted live once, I don't know how it happens, but a few minutes later after we're done here, the whole thing's up for you to watch. We do also take these and we put them out as a podcast. So wherever you guys listen to your podcast, this is available as Behind the Boost. So if you're on Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, or I think there's like a Pocket Cast and all kinds of weird places you could listen to it, but it's everywhere. So check it out if you missed anything. Tons of good stuff to go back on now too. We've got a few of those episodes out. If you guys have any other questions for Kyle, leave them for us in the comments below, and we'll can them for maybe a round 2 with Kyle if we get enough of them. So anyways, man, I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for, everything that you're doing at the shop. I know that my job wouldn't exist if you weren't working as hard as you do. So I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys are killing it too, though. All these videos, this stuff's awesome. So keep it up. It's awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man. Well, anyways, guys, that's where we're going to end it today. Like I said, if you have anything else that you want to add or any questions that you have, leave them in the comments for us. We'll circle back another time. And if, like I said, if there's enough of them, maybe Kyle will do a round 2. Yeah. That's where we're going to end it. Thanks again for joining, guys. We'll see you next time.
All right. See you guys.